Hello guys, good day to you all and thank you for making it here again today. If you are new to this channel, my name is Joseph. I am a Microsoft certified trainer. So today we are going to continue from where we stopped in the previous video where we were creating VM, right? But today we're going to give it a different approach entirely, okay? So on the screen are the steps that we want to go through to create this VM that we want to create in Azure. So we are first of all going to create the IP address, and then we are going to create the subnet for that IPs, let's say for the different units in the company, like we mentioned the last time. And then we are going to be creating our own public IP as well. And then we'll create a network interface, our own network interface, and then we create our network security group. Then we add the public IP, and the network security group that we created to the NIC that we create, that is the network interface card, the virtual network interface card that we create. And then we'll create the VM and then attach the NIC, the network interface card, to the VM that we create, and we'll remove the default NIC. So I'm just running you through what we are going to be doing because it may be a bit longer video because of the content that we'll try to get from this. So follow me, let's go. We'll go through step 1 to step 8, okay? So I'll do portal.azure.com. Okay, so we are going to pick up this account, this one that I have subscription. Okay, so as this comes up, I want us to look at our list again. We'll be looking at this side by side. We want to create private IPs, right? We want to create private IPs. But before we even do what we want to do, just to keep our work neat, we want to first of all create a resource group, okay? So that we can have everything regarding what we are trying to do now on that resource group, okay? So these are the resources that I currently do have on this tenant. So we'll just go to search for resource group. Okay. Usually better to pick the one here at under the marketplace, so you can just go ahead and create. So that's loading up. Okay, so I want to call this company Logic. Okay, so let's just say Logic RG. Okay, so the name is Logic RG, and it's going to be in the East US. Okay, East US. So we can review and create that resource group now, and then it's validated, and then we can click on create. Logic is the name of the company. Okay, so now that the resource group is created, we have two options: either to go into the resource group directly and start creating what we want to do, or just search for it, search for whatever we want to build, and then choose the resource group for it. So first we want to create a private IP. So let's just go, let's create private IPs. So we'll say virtual network, that's VNet, virtual network. Okay, so under here, we'll just click on virtual network. So this comes up, so it's telling us to create virtual network. So we are going to choose that. Okay, so we want to put the virtual network under Logic. Okay, so let's just do everything we want to do inside Logic RG. Okay, so the virtual network name, we are going to give it Logic VNet. That's what we're going to call it. Okay, so we'll just we'll do next. Okay, so this is about the security that we just need to see, and then we don't have much to do there, right? But for here, this is where we arrange the private IPs that we want to use for the resources that we want to create. So let's go by 192 dot 168 dot let's go for dot 70 dot 0, and then let it be slash 24, so we can have 256 IPs. We did this all in the last video. If you've not watched it, you can go back there and watch. So let's now add our subnet by clicking on add subnet. So remember, the company is Logic. So we are going to say, okay, this should be for Logic, the subnet. Now let's say this for Logic IT, subnets. Okay, subnets, that's what we are creating, Logic IP subnet. And this is going to take, if we leave it at slash 24, then it is going to take all the 256 IP in the address space, right? So, but we are going to break this company called Logic into 4 different departments, because we are going to have 4 subnets on the, if we change it to slash 26. Okay, so I'm going to do the slash 26 so that I will have 64 for my IT units. Okay, so I will add these subnets, and then I can remove the default. Of course, you can see that it's giving a warning sign, so we can remove that. That is the one that was created by Azure. And then I want us to add for another unit of our company, but mind you, this IP range for the IT unit is starting from 0 and it's ending at 63. Okay, so we can now give this name here, Logic, again, Logic, and then we can do HR, then we do VNets. Okay, so now it's going to start from 192.168.40, then .64. Of course, you know the other one is ending at 63, so we leave it here, right? And then what we do, this one is ending at 53, right? So we do this and we put it slash 26 so that we can bring out, let's see what this error is, the subnet address range of 192.168.40. Oh, it's supposed to be .70, right? So this is .70 that we're using, 70, okay, slash 64. Now this is for the HR unit. I will create the 4, I'll take my time to create the whole 4 subnet for the 4 departments. So I'm going to add another subnet here, and that subnet we are going to call it quality, that is QR. Okay, quality, QA, right? Quality assurance. So we are going to call this Logic, that's our pattern, right? Logic dash QA subnet. I think I made a mistake in this other one. I'll correct it. Subnet, and then if you look at it, let me do this again. I want to correct this one. I say VNet, so instead of subnet, I'm going to correct it. So I'm going to say subnet. Of course, it's a subnet for the HR, and it's ending at 127. So the next IP is going to start from 128. So that's what I'm trying to do. So 128. Now let's add the subnet for the QA now. So the name is Logic QA subnet. Okay, so the address is going to be starting from 128. So we're going to do 192.168.168.70, right? .128. Now, and it's going to also be slash 24, slash 26, so that goes for the unit, the QA unit, right? And then that goes. So now let's bring up the last address space. So this is ending at where, let's look at where this is ending, just so we know where to build the last subnet. This is ending at 191. So it means that the next subnet is going to start from 192. Okay, so let's add now. So our pattern is going to be Logic, remember. So it's going to be Logic. Let's do legal, and then we do subnets. Okay. So now the starting address is 192, right? So we have this one 192.168.70 dot 192. So this is going to be taking it from there to, let's put it back on the this 24, I mean 26, right? So that will be the last IP space here. So we're going to do add. So we have these 4 subnet for different departments. Okay, let's review and then let it validate. Once it passes, then we are going to create the virtual network having the whole subnet. So let's just give it some time and relax for it to come up. So validation pass. So let's do create. So it's deploying the virtual network alongside the subnets that are within that virtual network. So we just hold on a bit. This may take some time to pop up for us, to populate for us. So let's just hold on. So as you can see, logic VNet is already getting created and deployment is in progress. Okay. Okay, so the VNet is now created. The logic VNet is now created. So we can go to resource, but that's not the point. Now, the next point that we are looking at, we are done with this is done already. So we want to create with, okay, we created IPs and then we also created VNet. That means the second point is done. So we want to create public IP and have it inside our resource group, the logic resource group. So we just go and search for public IP address. So it's already here. So we click on this, and when this comes up, so we are going to call it, we are going to put it again in logic resource group. No, not that, logic. Yes, logic, because I had logic there, so we have to be very careful. So now it's also going to be in the East US. Okay, now this is how it is. It's going to be in the East US, and then the name, so we are going to call it logic public IP. So that's what I will just call it PIP, public IP. Okay, if it is public IP, and then I want to leave it at IPv4, and then I have 2 options for the school. This school you have here is actually a public IP school must match the school of the load balancer with which it is going to use. So we're going to look at this in our future classes. Okay, so now if I put it in standard, I have options to make it static only, but if I put it in basic, I have option to put it in static or dynamic. Of course, you know that static IP means that the IP will not change over time, but dynamic IP means that IP can change, right? So, but I want us to use standard. Of course, you see the information here that by 2025, 30th of September, the basic public IP would no longer be available. But I even prefer to use standard, okay? So if I have standard, then it means that this is not going to show me dynamic anymore. It will just automatically become static IP. Having said that, now it will ask me if I want to, you see, I have chosen a region for this East US IP. If I also want to make it global, I can just change it here. And of course, you see the effect it's going to have. It's just giving me confirm East US is a region. A cross-regional load balancer, global IP or global IP prefix must be deployed with the supported home region. But I just want to put it in region, okay, so that we can save a lot of stress. And then it's going to be in the East US, okay. So now that it is in East US, I come down. So I've not known the IP yet, but it's going to get it created for me. It's going to be a static IP. Now this is asking me the DNS label. So this is telling me the DNS label, which is an A record that starts with the specified label, and it will resolve the IP address, and then it will be registered with the Azure, provided DNS server. So what it's just telling me to do is to just set up the prefix now. So I hope they will not have taken up logic, but let's try. We may be lucky. If it is taken, we can adjust that. So we can pull logic and then we review. Let's hope that that is going to pass. If it doesn't, we can come back to create and then give it a different DNS preface. So let's see, validation pass. We may be lucky to have logic available for us. Let's see, he's deploying the public IP. Okay, it appears to have gone through successfully for us. So deployment is in progress. DNS logic is already used. Okay, that's what I just mentioned, right? So what we'll do now, I think it's easier for us to, at this point, I think it's easier for us to just start up the process to create it and then give it a local name. Maybe we'll just put logic and then we'll just make some things up. So let's go back to public IP again. So the part of this is what I was trying to highlight, that it's possible that logic would have been taken, but it's fine. Let's just go over the process again. Makes us stronger. So of course, it's going to be in logic origin because it's supposed to be, the DNS is supposed to be a globally unique name, right? That's why we are just struggling with that English word, but no problem. So I'm going to just add something to it. Okay, maybe my surname at the front or something. So name of the public IP, of course, is logic PIP. We did that, and then we did all of this before standard, and then the availability, right? Of course, it can be zone redundant, or 2, 3, or 1 redundancy. Okay, so that's that for that. So let's quickly give it our DNS that we had problems. So we'll still call it logic. Let me just put my surname. I'm very sure nobody would have taken that. Okay, so let's review and create this time. So the deployment is on again. Okay, so validation again passed. So let's hit on create. We should be able to scale through from this point since we have given it logic and then Afeso, my surname, at the front. Of course, my name is local, so I'm not sure anybody would have created something like that before. So, okay, I guess deployment is ongoing. So let's hope that we are going to scale through with that DNS. Of course, we should, right? But let's just see. Okay, so it's deploying. Hope that name is not taken. It will be a miracle if that DNS name is, I mean, it's taken, right? But let's just hold on. We can just see the, yeah, of course, we're able to get the public IP created. So if we go to resource now, and let's see the IP address that is given to us, the static IP address. So this is all the details. So the public IP address that is given to us is 20.255.82.50. So that's fine. So the region, of course, excuse me, we set all of this, the school is standard, then the tier, regional, and then all of this. So, and then this is the DNS, all right? DNS name is logicafeso.east. So what we want to do now, let's copy this, and then let's also copy the IP address. So let's just put it down below here on our notes that we have this as our public IP, and then we have this as our DNS. Okay, so these are our public IP, just for us to refer, right? Public IP, and then this is our DNS. Okay, so that is what was given to us. Now we've been able to create public IP, so we want to create network interface, right? So let's come back. So this is where we are, right? Just take it easy. This is where we are now. So create network interface. So let's come here and say network interface. Okay, so coming down here under marketplace, we just do market in, I mean, as a market interface. So we create network interface, right? So what resource group do we also want to have it? We still do want to have it in logic RG. Okay, just follow through. Okay, so what's going to be the name of this network interface? Is going to be logic NIC. Okay, logic NIC. And then it's going to be in the East US. All our resources have been in the East US. So the virtual network that we want to put it. Okay, so for the virtual network, we are going to select our logic RG. Okay, this is it, logic VNet. All right, logic VNet. Hold on, let me see. I said this logic was going to cause a bit of confusion. Let's see. Logic QA. Yeah, this is correct. So we want to leave it at, let's leave this in IT subnets. Don't get this confused. We just created the, what's it called? The network interface, and we want to put it in a resource group. I mean, want to put it in a resource group. Yes, we put it in logic resource group, and then the name we call it logic NIC, that is logic network interface card. And then we are coming to virtual network that we want to put it. So we are putting it in logic VNet, and then the subnets, we are going to leave this particular resource that we want to create in the IT subnets. Of course, if you watch the previous video, you understand what I'm talking about. So we do logic subnet here. I mean, we do logic IT subnet, and of course, it's IPv4. Now, this time we don't want to make the IP dynamic. We want to make sure that the IP, the private IP, is going to be static. Remember, when we created our previous VM on the other video, Azure gave it .4, right? We did not give it the .4. You go and check that video very well. So by this time, we want to give this our VM that we want to build a particular IP address, not the one suggested by Azure. So we want to give it, let's say, our IP range for the IT department is this, right? Is 192.168.70 from 0 to 63. So let's just give this 192.168, the machine we want to create, .70, and let's leave it at .12. Okay, so it means that at every time, this private IP is always going to be for the machine that we want to create. But of course, by default, if you try to skip this, Azure will by itself bring up an IP that the machine is going to have, and it's most likely the first one is going to be .4. But we just want to randomly pick .12 for the machine that we'll be building at the end of the day. But this is our network interface card that we are just trying to build. Now, let's go to next, and then yes, we don't have anything to do here because I don't even want to give it a tag. So if this is complete, what we'll do is to create the virtual network interface. Okay, so let's just hold on. Validation passed. So we click on create. Okay, so let's just wait for this to come up as well. So that is created already. The network interface is created already. So what's the next thing on our list? The next thing on our list is going to be create network security group. So we just want to come here and then search for network security group. Now under marketplace again, I will pick network security group. So I want to create network security group. So the resource again that I want to put it should just be logic RG, and then the name of the network security group, we are also going to give it logic NSG, network security group. And of course, we've been in the East US, let it be there. And then let's go to next. And then this is the tag. Let's review and create. First, the network security group. Okay, validation passed. So let's create logic RG. Then is in logic NSG. Okay, so that's NSG. The deployment is in progress. Now let's go to the resource. Let's go to the network security group now. Now, having created the NSG for us, if you look at what we have here, right, you would find out that, let me reduce this a bit because my screen is a bit small for what I'm trying to show you. Now, looking at this, we can see the all allowed. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to explain. We have all allowed. That is all allowed is 6,500. Then all Azure load balancing is all this. But that's not my issue. What I want to look at is our inbound rules. The inbound rules. These inbound rules tells us a whole lot of things that we need to set up. Can you see this? Let's add something to it. Let's add a port to it. And then you see what I'm trying to even say. If you look at this, you will have that the VM that we are going to create at the end of the day, there is no way we are going to be connecting to it, maybe through RDP, because the network security group has not given consideration to our RDP here on this interface. So what we want to do is, the reason why there is nothing like RDP here is just port is just any is because this is about virtual network and this is about virtual load balancer and so this does not even know what you are going to be using the NSG for. But because we know that the NSG is going to be used to create a VM, and we know that we need RDP to be able to use to connect to the VM if we want to use RDP to connect. So we are going to allow RDP and put it in a priority that is high so that the machine that we are going to build at the end of this demo is going to be, we are going to be able to connect to it via RDP. I hope this makes sense to you. Just take time to watch, to repeat this statement. It will make sense at the end of the day. So let's do add. So the reason I'm adding is because I want to be able to connect to the machine that we are going to build at the end of the day with RDP. Now I'll go to services and then I will go to RDP. Now, if I allow, see me allowing RDP, if I deny RDP, it means that the machine cannot even connect via RDP, but I want to allow RDP. Okay. Now, what is the priority that I want to give it? I'll cancel this for the purpose of what I want to show you. Now, look at something. Look at something. Priority here, 6,000, 65,000, 65,001, 65, 665,500, here, right? 65,500 and all of this. So the higher the number for the priority, right, the lower the priority. So because we want to prioritize RDP, we are going to make it, the priority is going to be a smaller number so that it can be on top of, the inbound rule. Okay, so I think that makes sense to you. So let's now add. So we are going to the service and we are going to be putting RDP and we are going to allow, not deny, we are going to allow RDP. Of course, we can come back and say we don't want, someone to remote to this via RDP. And then the source, we can just give it maybe IP address. I'm sure I'm going to address all of this in subsequent video, the shorter videos, to see how we could say, okay, we'll block certain IP addresses from connecting to our VM, or want to say anything that is not within the subnet should not be able to, so we'll look at that in the subsequent video. So I'm just trying to emphasize on the priority. Priority that is suggested to us here is 100. So if that is it, then we can add this RDP. We can add this rule to it, 3389, port 3389 for RDP. And that's just getting added to what we are doing. Good 18, RDP is now added, right? And is 3389. So this is now allowed, right, for the network security group. Remember, now what is the next thing that we said we're going to do? Let's check. Now add the public IP address and the network security group to the NIC that was created. Now it means that we are going to the NIC that was created. So let's go home. Okay, now let's look for logic NSG. Then inside logic NSG, remember we'll have our logic NIC there. No, sorry. So I was clicking NSG. So let's go to logic RG. Logic RG. Let's just take our time to look for it, because we have our okay. Let's even search for logic RG here. Is it? No, we are searching for resource, so we should search it. Logic RG. Okay, let's even do logic nick directly from here. Sorry. So, okay, so what are we trying to do? We are trying to, let's look at it again. We are trying to now add the public IP and the NSG to the nick. Okay, so now what happens is that we can go to, first of all, we can go to network security group. Okay, go to network security group, and we are bringing up logic NSG to be added to our logic NIC. Don't get confused. So we are going to do save so that we can add the NSG to the NIC. That is the network security group to the network interface card. So that is getting added to it already. Excuse me. Okay, so that is saved to this. So the next thing we want to do is IP configuration. Under IP configuration, we see that the .12, the static .12 that we added to the NIC, to the network interface card, is the only thing that is here. So let's open it. And then from here, we can say associate public IP. Remember that we created a public IP, which is what now? Let's come back to this. That is 20.253.82.50, right? So let's come back to this. So we want to add the public IP, right, to this. So we click on this drop down. Remember that we have logic PIP, that is logic public IP. So that's what we want to attach to this. So we click on save. The whole thing is becoming scattered, right? But just take your time, because we are trying to build every portion of that VM that we don't have Azure do anything for us. So it can be a bit confusing. But all of these things will make sense just after this step. So we are adding that public IP to what we have. Okay. Now, what is here now is in this network interface card, you have the private IP, static private IP, and then you have public IP, which is the 20.253.82.50 here that we have, right? That we already have taken note of as our public IP. Now that's good. Okay. So what we do is this is now added already. We are done with that stage of our. So we are done with stage 6 of our demo. Then we want to create network, we want to create VM now and attach the network interface card, right? So I think this is the sweetest part of this whole stuff. So let's go to virtual machine, and then we are picking from down here, remember, and it's going to be in our logic resource group. Okay. Resource group, of course, we are still having everything inside our logic RG, and then the instance, the virtual machine name. So of course, it's going to be logic -VM. Okay, then it's going to be in the East US. Availability, we are not going to put any availability. And then, yes, of course, I want to just quickly pass through this because it's already contained in our previous video. So we want to pick Windows Server 2022 data center. Of course, it's fine. And then we want to, yes, we want to leave it as standard B2MS. If you've not understood, if you don't understand what this means, watch the previous video. So what is going to be the username of this VM? So it's still going to be logic-VM. Okay. Then the password, I will give it a password. Okay, so I will just verify the password. Okay, so that's That is okay. So now we want to this public inbound port. So if we leave this, it's going to be creating this port for us. But of course, we already have it in our NIC, and then we don't need that if that is the case. So we can put it at none, because at the end of the day, the whole essence of this is for us to bring our network interface card and put it in this VM that we are about to create. So we do next. Of course, I have shown you this in the previous video, the premium SSD. If you've not watched, go and do that. Then for the networking part, now let's look at what the networking part is going to do for us. Because we already have virtual network, we already have a VM, VNet created for this machine, and that is logic VNet, okay? And then the subnet that we want to take, of course, is IT subnet. Then for the public IP, we don't want to use public IP. We already have our public IP in our NIC, right? And then we put it at none. Then for the network security group, we do not also want Azure to give us. We have created our own, okay? Now, having done that, is okay. So we can go to the management. Of course, the management, you know what we have to do there, like what I showed you in the previous video, where you can do the auto shutdown and all of this. All right. If you've not watched the previous video, please go and watch it. So we do the next one is monitoring. Of course, you can just see what is here, and then we'll go to tags, and then the next we want to do is to review and create this VM. So let's just hold on for it to create, and it's going to take some time. Okay. So this is just telling me the summary of everything that I'm about to do. Is going to be costing me 0.0832 USD per hour. So this is validation passed for that VM. Of course, if you look at it deeply, subscription is this, then the resource group is Logic RG, and then this is Logic RM is in the East US, and all of these standard B2MS and premium SSD, yes, enabled, and Logic and all of that. So we click on create so that we don't take more time to explain those. So let's hold on for the initialization and the deployment. Okay, so our VM is now ready. So what we do is let's go to the resource, Logic VM. Now what happens is, you see, if I go to networking, right? So what happened is I can attach network interface card. You see this I'm showing you? I suffered this for about 5 to 6 creating and deleting VM without understanding that before I can attach the network interface that we built, I would have to shut down this VM. I will have to stop it. But then let me just show you the network interface 2 was created. This was the one that was created by Azure for me by default. And then the virtual network, of course, I selected this myself, and it's .4, right? This is the one that was automatically created, but I do not want this. I do not want .4. I've given my IP .12. So it should pick .12. Why is Azure giving me .4? So I'm going to change this, okay? I'm going to remove the whole of this. But the only way I can attach the network interface that we built is if I stop this VM. So I'm going to go ahead to overview again and then stop this VM. Yes, I want to stop it from running. Because of course, after building a VM, it automatically in a running mode. So for me to be able to add the NIC that we created, I have to first of all stop the VM. Take note of this, is very important. So that's all about the everything that we we give to the VM and all of that. So this is just stopping. Okay, so the machine has successfully stopped. Okay, now that it has successfully stopped, let's come back to networking and let us attach the logic NIC. Look at it. If I had other NIC, I will have them here. So now the logic NIC is what I want to add now. So I'm adding the logic NIC, the NIC that you and I created on this call. So it's attaching the NIC. So attached network interface. It has been attached successfully. Now, you see two options. Attached network interface, excuse me, cancel. You see that you have logic VM 466. This is the one that was created by Azure for me. And then this one is the one that we created and we gave it, we have our public IP .50, in case you've forgotten, .50. Look at it, our public IP, right? Then our, what again? Our is in IT subnet. That is a virtual network that it is in IT subnet. And the private IP we gave it is .12. But if you come to the one that is created by default, you'll find out that the IP is .4, right? The IP is .4 as against what we wanted. So because we don't want this, one that is created by default by Azure, because you cannot be using that in an organization. Actually, we are going to detach this network interface. We are going to detach this one here, logic VM60. So we are going to detach it. So detaching that so that we can have the one that we created as the only network interface card for the VM that we just created. I think this is about the session that we can round off. So let's just look at yeah, we are removing the default NIC. This is the last point, point 8. So we have removed it. It means that the only thing we have now is what we added to it, the public IP 50, the private IP 12. So that is what we have on this VM. So we are good to now start our VM and see what happened. But then let's even go to the overview of the VM, because there's something I want us to look at. Now you look at it, the DNS that we gave to it, look at it, the DNS name that we gave to it. This is the public IP that we gave. Now the DNS, let's just confirm this DNS alongside the DNS that we have here. Of course, this is it. You can confirm to me that this is the DNS that we created that time. Okay, so, and that came from the public IP that was created. So now let's start the VM again. I think starting this VM and just seeing what is inside the VM, we can just do IP config to confirm that the IPs are in place. Then we can call it a day from there. But in the subsequent tutorials, I may just have to be breaking all of this down into different bits so that you can understand what it means to, let me bring up this list again. I may just try to break it down to explain further how to create private IP, how to create subnet, how to create all of this one after the other. So if you watch this and it makes sense to you, but it's so complicated that you cannot understand, don't worry. When I start to do the shorter videos, I'll show you how to create this individually. So that will make sense more to you as well. So this VM is already started. So it's just time for us to connect to it. So of course, remember we allowed RODP. So we are going to use RODP to just connect. And then this is the name of the VM. So we are going to download RODP and then we keep and then open and then connect. So this is the point that we get connected to the VM. See the IP there. Of course, it's failing now. Let's open again. Maybe that is taking some time to ports 3389. There's an issue there. What's the issue? Unable to configure just in time and all of that. Now, that VM failed because from the NIC, from the logic NIC, I had not added let me come back to the network security group in the NIC. I had not added because it will be none by default. So you have to now come here and put it at logic NSG, which allows RDP. That's why that one failed actually. So let's come back home. Yes, I'm not making any changes. Okay. So the logic VM, we want to start it now. Okay, so where is connect from here? Let's just do that again. Of course, I already have the RDP downloaded, but we can just look through the whole process again and then just click on download. And then let's keep logic VM. Can you open? Okay. Okay, so here is what we are going to do. Logic VM, then I'll put my password. Okay, I click on OK. So this will just ask me all of this and I'll click on next. So you can see that it's connecting with the public IP that we created and the VM is just coming up now. So let's hold on for it. Logic VM. I just want us to do one more thing, just to do IP config to see the, of course, we connected to this machine from the public IP .253.82.50, remember. So we want to now do IP config, and then from there we just see, and then we can round off this video. Sorry that it took too long, but we had to just go through this in bulk, and then I will come to break it again in bits. So just try to follow through this whole series and you will understand how it goes. And I'm going to take my time to explain each of the points that was addressed in this video. So let's just refresh our VM. You know, it's a server, so the server manager and all of those are loading up right now. So but let's see if we can beat that and just do CMD. Okay, that's going to open for us. Good. IP config. So this is where we're going to round off today. So you can see that the IPv4 is .12 that we've given to it. Then the subnet mask is of course 192, and then the default gateway is this. Now if we come to I said we're going to round off there, but we're just the very last one. So the logic VNets. So if we come to connected devices, we are going to see that we have logic NIC, and then we have logic VM. This is the default IP that Azure gave to this machine that we removed. And then this is what the machine is now having that is put in the NIC and is .12. So if we come to subnets, we're going to see that the IT subnet is going to short one IP. Of course, look at it. We have 59 for the HRO, the QA, the logic, the legal having 59 out of the 63 IPs, right? 64 IPs. But look at it here. For this is 57 because one of it is given as the first private IP, which Azure gave the .4, and the second one, .12, was the one we gave to our NIC. So, and that, of course, has been assigned to those devices. So this is how you can go around the whole networking of your VM, how you can connect to your VM, how you can make sure you give it static IP, and that's to be a logical IP that you have decided for the machine. Of course, that is how you can do it. This is a very long video, I can agree with you, but since you are able to watch to this extent, you'll be able to understand it when we come out in bits for the other one. So thank you so much for your encouragement, from your comments and all of those. If you know that you've not subscribed to this channel, please do. It is very, very important to us. And at the end of the day, we are going to be at the top together. So cheers and have a wonderful day.